Alright, the pound for pound showdown between two of the biggest names in boxing right now is officially behind us. First off, I think it's only right that I take this time to acknowledge just how great Canelo really is. Canelo seems to be one of those fighters that fans either love with all their heart or hate immensely. But no matter which side you're on, you have to admit that Canelo is the last of a dying breed. He's a throwback champion. Because let's face it, we're never going to see a guy with 200 fights over the course of their career like a Sugar Ray Robinson or Julio Cesar Chavez, but Canelo is the closest that we're gonna see for a long time, if not forever. Taking on 4 fights in 11 months over the course of 2021 to go from not having a single belt at super middleweight to having literally all of the belts at 168. And this is in a division that most people think that he realistically probably shouldn't even be at. Already totaling 64 fights in his career at only 33 years old, the guy is a bona fide legend. Now, when it comes to this fight, let's not forget that Jermell Charlo kind of came out of left field, since we were all expecting Jermall Charlo, the bigger of the two, to be the one that was going to face off against Canelo. When Jermell came in, it kind of became obvious to everybody that Jermell was facing an uphill battle, to say the least, coming up 2 weight classes to fight the undisputed champion at super middleweight. And oh, by the way, Canelo is also arguably the #1 boxer in the world pound for pound. Despite this big difference in weight, the announcers brought up something that I didn't even think about going into this fight. Jermell Charlo is actually the exact same height and has the exact same wingspan as the last guy to beat Canelo, Dimitri Bivol. And let's not forget, at 154, Jermell has always looked like he had the kind of punching power that would carry up at least one division. While Terence Crawford is an undisputed champion in 2 weight classes, he's actually never beaten somebody who was undisputed to become undisputed. So in this fight, this is the first time that 2 undisputed champions have actually faced off. Early on in this one, both guys kind of came out pretty cautious. I think both guys had a lot of respect for each other's power, but almost immediately when the fight actually started, you could just see the size difference. I mean, Canelo just looks like so much more of a dense human being than Jermell. After that kind of slow first round, Canelo just started doing what he always does, applying that constant pressure. Not really fighting off of a jab too much, more so just looking for the right moments, the right opportunities, and the right angles to land devastating shots. One thing that Charlo did in this fight that I thought was really good was that, at least early on, he used a lot of his footwork, constantly moving away, throwing long, straight punches, and trying to get his jab going from a distance, which he had some success with. And I think that the reason that works is because, as amazing and great of a fighter that Canelo is, if you had to pinpoint one thing that he doesn't do as elite as everything else, it's gotta be his footwork. The guy doesn't necessarily have the fastest feet. So Jermell, utilizing his footwork, staying at his range, not letting Canelo get in close, I think would have been a pretty good game plan to stick with and apply even more over the course of the fight. Jermell also had a lot of success throwing extended combinations, again, utilizing a lot of long, straight shots. And him being the taller, longer fighter, this was very reminiscent of Dimitri Bivol in the way that he was able to just dismantle Canelo. Canelo likes to use a high guard when he's coming in, applying pressure, so he's always looking to block and to parry the punches coming his way. So when you're constantly throwing shots at him, he looks to sometimes get pretty overwhelmed, and when he's so focused on blocking and parrying, he really doesn't have much of an opportunity to get his own shots off. I think going forward, this might be something that future opponents of Canelo utilized up against him, since it appears to be pretty effective. That being said, the story of this fight was Canelo's constant stalking pressure. For the majority of this fight, he was just walking down Jermell and throwing huge bombs to Jermell's arms, body, and his head, scoring the knockdown in round 7. And even when Jermell connected with some good shots, he landed some good left hooks, Canelo was able to just walk right through it. Overall, even though Canelo wasn't able to get the finish, it was still a dominant performance by him. So it's next. Jermell already has a fight waiting for him at 154 in the winner of Tim Tszyu versus Brian Mendoza, and a win there could return Jermell to undisputed status. But after this fight, he also called out his shot at a fight against the consensus pound for pound #1 Terence Crawford, which is a fight that makes sense for both guys. For Jermell, you get an opportunity to fight another guy in that kind of all-time great of this era conversation. A win might catapult him super high up in the pound-for-pound rankings. And for Terence Crawford, who's been floating the idea of fighting Canelo, this is a perfect bridge into that fight. An opportunity to become a 3-weight undisputed champion with a win over Jermell. And if he's able to stop Jermell, which Canelo wasn't able to do, all of a sudden, I think a lot of people will kind of start to put less weight on the fact that there's a size difference between Terence Crawford and Canelo. Makes the fight a lot more interesting. And as for Canelo, he's he's already said that he doesn't want to return to the ring until next Cinco de Mayo, which I personally hate. I miss the super active Canelo of 2021 fighting. It felt like every other month. But with Canelo recently signing to PBC, his next few fight dates are already set in stone. This past September that we just saw, next Cinco de Mayo, and then the next September. And since he's under the PBC banner, he's gonna be fighting other guys under PBC. And there's really only a couple guys that make sense for him to fight. I think the fight with David Benavidez makes a lot of sense. It makes all the sense in the world, since Canelo's next two fights are probably going to be on Cinco de Mayo weekend and Mexican Independence Day weekend. I mean, who wouldn't want to see a clash of the two best fighters at 168, as well as probably the two best Mexican fighters in boxing right now? And then outside of that, I mean, I'm kind of at a loss. The only other fight that makes any sense is the Terrence Crawford fight. But with Terrence Crawford having that mandatory rematch with Errol Spence and Jermell Charlo potentially setting up a fight between himself and Terrence Crawford, I guess over the next year or so, we're just gonna have to wait and see. But for now, I think all boxing fans should appreciate the fact that we finally live in a time where, slowly but surely, all the big fights that fans have been clamoring to see for the past few years are now finally starting to happen. Thanks for watching.